Hello everyone and welcome to Law and Court Cases, and in today's video we are going to be covering a case that remained unsolved for 4 decades. Playing the role of first responder, he was not the person anyone would suspect of being a killer, rapist and burglar. Known as the original Night Stalker, today we are talking about Joseph James DeAngelo Jr, better known as the Golden State Killer. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Joseph was born on November 8th of 1945 in Bath, New York, to Kathleen K. Louise DeGrault and Joseph James DeAngelo Sr, a sergeant for the United States Army. He had 2 older sisters, Connie and Rebecca, and a younger brother, John. A relative reported that when DeAngelo was a young child, he witnessed the rape of Connie by 2 airmen in a warehouse in West Germany, where the family was stationed at the time. Following DeAngelo's conviction, Rebecca claimed that he was abused by their father whilst he was growing up. Between 1959 and 1960, DeAngelo attended Mills Junior High School in Rancho Cordova, California. Beginning in 1961, he attended Folsom High School, from which he received GED certificate in 1964. He played on the school's junior varsity baseball team. Prosecutors reported that DeAngelo committed burglaries, mail theft, and tortured and killed animals during his teenage years. DeAngelo joined the United States Navy in September of 1964 and served for 22 months during the Vietnam War as a damage controlman on the cruiser USS Canberra and the destroyer tender of USS Piedmont. Beginning in August of 1968, DeAngelo attended Sierra College in Rocklin, California. He graduated with an associate's degree in police science with honors. He attended Sacramento State University in 1971. Where he earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. DeAngelo later took postgraduate courses and further police training. He then completed a 32-week police internship at the police department in Roseville. From May 1973 to August of 1976, DeAngelo was a burglary unit police officer in Exeter, having relocated from Citrus Heights. He then served in Auburn from August 1976 to July of 1979. When he was arrested for shoplifting a hammer and a dog repellent. He was sentenced to 6 months of probation and fired that October. During the process of being fired, DeAngelo threatened to kill the chief of police and allegedly stalked the chief's house. In May of 1970, DeAngelo became engaged to nursing student Bonnie Jean Colwell, a classmate at Sierra College, but she ended the relationship in 1971 after he became manipulative, abusive, culminating in him demanding that she help him cheat on an abnormal psychology test. After the breakup, he attempted to force her to marry him by threatening her with a gun. In November of 1973, he married Sharon Marie Huddle of Citrus Heights. In 1980, they purchased a house in Citrus Heights, where he was eventually arrested decades later. Huddle became a divorce attorney in 1982, and they had 3 daughters. 2 were born in Sacramento and 1 was born in Los Angeles. The couple separated in 1991. In July of 2018, several months after DeAngelo's arrest, Huddle filed for divorce, which was finalised the following year. DeAngelo committed most of the offences whilst he was married and raising a family. Neither his wife nor his children ever suspected he was committing serious crimes. His eldest daughter claimed he was the perfect father, while his wife believed his excuses for being away from home. DeAngelo's employment history during the 1980s is unknown. From 1990 until his retirement in 2017, he worked as a truck mechanic at a Save Mart supermarket's distribution centre in Roseville. He was arrested in 1996 for failing to pay for gas, but the charge was dismissed. DeAngelo's brother-in-law claimed that DeAngelo would casually bring up the East Area rapist in conversation around the time of the original crimes. Neighbours also reported that he would frequently engage in loud, profane outbursts. One neighbour reported that his family received a phone message from DeAngelo threatening to deliver a load of death because of their barking dog. He was living with a daughter and a granddaughter at the time of his arrest. DNA evidence linked DeAngelo to 8 murders in Goleta, Ventura, Dana Point and Irvin. 2 other murders in Goleta, lacking DNA evidence, were linked via his MO. DeAngelo pleaded guilty to 3 other murders, 2 in Rancho Cordova and 1 in Visala. He also committed more than 50 known rapes in California, and he was linked to hundreds of incidents of theft, burglaries, vandalism, peeping, stalking, and prowling. It was long suspected that the training ground of the criminal who became the East Area Rapist was Vassala. Earlier Vassala crimes dated back as early as May 1973, and other sprees like that of the Cordova cat burglar and the Exeter ransacker, as well as Vassala burglaries that took place after the shooting of Detective William McGowan, are now suspected to be linked also. After a period of 20 months, DeAngelo is believed to have been responsible for one murder and around 120 burglaries. In late April of 2018, the Vassala Chief of Police stated that while there was no DNA evidence linking DeAngelo to the Central Valley cases, his department had other evidence that played a role in the investigation, and he was confident that the Vassala ransacker had been captured. Though the statute of limitations for burglaries had each expired, DeAngelo was formally charged on August 13th of 2018 with the first-degree murder of Claude Snelling in 1975. In 2020, DeAngelo pled guilty to Sneller's murder. The first recorded ransacking occurred on March 19th of 1974, when a sum of $50 in coins was stolen from a piggy bank. Most of the ransacker's activities involved breaking into houses, rifling through and vandalising the owner's possessions, scattering women's underclothes, and stealing a range of low-value items, while often ignoring banknotes and higher-value items in plain sight. The ransacker would also often arrange and display items in the house. Items emptied included piggy banks and coin jars, and stolen items often included blue-chip stamps, foreign or historic coins, and personal items, such as single earrings, cufflinks, rings, or medallions. But it also included 6 different weapons and various types of ammunition. Multiple same-day ransackings were also committed, including 12 separate incidents on November 30th of 1974. Common characteristics of the burglaries included climbing fences and moving through established routes such as parks, walkways, ditches, and trails, attempting to pry open multiple points of entry, particularly windows, leaving multiple points of escape open, especially windows, as well as the house, garage, and garden doors, moving removed window screens onto beds or into bedrooms, placing warning items such as dishes or bottles against doors or on door handles. He would also wear gloves. On September 11th of 1975, DeAngelo broke into the home of Claude Snelling, 45. Snelling, a journalism professor at the College of Cinquez, had previously chased a prowler discovered under his 16-year-old daughter's bedroom window at around 10 p.m. on February 5th of 1975. On September 11th, he was awakened around 2 a.m. to strange noises. Upon leaving his bedroom, Snelling ran through the open back door and confronted a ski-masked intruder in his carport, attempting to kidnap his daughter, who had been subdued with threats of being stabbed or shot. Snelling was then shot twice, staggered back into the house to his wife, and later died. After the shooting, the assailant punched and kicked the daughter, leaving her on the ground, and fled the scene. A stolen bicycle tied to the assailant was found nearby at 615 Redwood Street. After the murder, Beth Snelling, 16, underwent hypnosis in order to gather further details. The Vassala police also committed more resources into apprehending the ransacker, and a $4,000 reward was posted. Nighttime stakeouts were set up at near houses that he had previously prowled, but the ransackings continued. Around 8:30 p.m. on December 12th of 1975, a masked man entered the backyard of a house at 1505W Kauai Avenue, near where the ransacker had been reported to frequent. When Detective William McGowan, on stakeout inside the garage, attempted to detain the man, the suspect shrieked, removing his mask and feigning surrender after McGowan fired a warning shot. However, after jumping the fence to the house of 1501, he also pulled out a revolver with his left hand and fired once near McGowan's face, shattering his flashlight. Nearby officers rushed to aid McGowan, and the shooter was able to escape. Items collected after evidence, including the flashlight, tennis shoe tracks, and dropped loot, namely blue chip stamps and a sock full of coins. DeAngelo moved to the Sacramento area in 1976, where his crimes escalated from burglary to rape. The crimes initially centered at the then unincorporated areas of Carmichael in Citrus Heights and Rancho Cordova, east of Sacramento. His initial MO was to stalk middle-class neighborhoods at night in search of women who were alone in one-story homes, usually near a school, creek, trail, or other open spaces that would provide a quick escape. He was seen a number of times, but also successfully fled. On one occasion, he shot and seriously wounded a young pursuer. More victims had seen or heard a prowler on their property before the attacks, and many had experienced break-ins. Police believed that the offender would conduct extensive reconnaissance in targeted neighbourhood, looking in windows and prowling in yards, before selecting a home to attack. It was believed that he sometimes entered the home of future victims to unlock windows, unload guns and plant ligatures for later use. He frequently telephoned future victims, sometimes for months in advance, to learn their daily routines. Although DeAngelo originally targeted women alone in their homes or with children, he eventually preferred attacking couples. This change in MO is believed to be a direct result of the media reports claiming he only attacked women alone in the home. His usual method was to break in through a window or sliding glass door and awaken the sleeping occupants with a flashlight, before threatening them with a handgun. Victims were subsequently bound with ligatures, often shoelaces, that he found or brought with him, then blindfolded and gagged. The female victim was usually forced to tie up her male companion before she was bound. The bindings were often so tight that the victim's hands were numb for hours after being untied. He then separated the couple, often stacking dishes on the male's back, and threatened to kill everyone in the house if he heard them rattle. He would then move the female to the living room and rape her, often again and again. A decade later, police reported that DeAngelo repeatedly said, "I hate you, Bonnie," during a 1978 rape, the 37th attack. DeAngelo sometimes spent hours in the home ransacking closets and drawers. He would then eat food in the kitchen, drink beer, and then rape the women again, or making additional threats. Victims sometimes thought he had left the house before he jumped from the darkness. He typically stole items, often personal objects and items of little value, but occasionally cash and firearms. He would then creep away, leaving victims uncertain as to whether he had left. He was believed to escape on foot through a series of yards and then use a bicycle to go home or to a car, making extensive use of parks, schoolyards, creek beds, and other open spaces that kept him off of the street. The East Area Rapist operated in Sacramento County for the first time in July of 1976 until May of 1977. After a 3-month gap, he struck in nearby San Juan County in September before returning to Sacramento for all but one of the next 10 attacks. The rapist attacked 5 times in 1978 before disappearing again for 3 months. Attacks then moved primarily to Contra Costa County in October and lasted until July of 1979. A young Sacramento couple, 21-year-old Brian Keith McGorry and his 20-year-old wife, Katie Lee McGorry, were walking their dog in the Rancho Cordova area on the night of February 2nd, 1978, near where the 5 East Area Rapist attacks had occurred. The McGorrys fled after a confrontation in the street, but were chased down and shot to death. Some investigators suspected that they had been murdered by the East Area Rapist because of their proximity to the other attacks' locations, and a shoelace was found nearby. The FBI announced that on July 15th of 2016 that it was confident that the East Area Rapist had murdered the McGorrys. On July 29th of 2020, DeAngelo entered a plea of guilty to these murders. Shortly after the rape committed, on July 5th of 1979, DeAngelo moved to Southern California and began killing his victims. First striking in Santa Barbara County in October, the attacks lasted until 1981, with a lone 1986 attack. Only the couple of the first attack survived, alerting neighbours and forcing the intruder to flee. The other victims were murdered by gunshot or bludgeoned. Since DeAngelo was not linked to these crimes for decades, he was known as the Night Stalker in the area, before being renamed the original Night Stalker, after serial killer Richard Ramirez received the former nickname. On October 1st of 1979, an intruder broke in and tied up a Goleta couple. Alarmed at hearing him say, "I'll kill him," to himself, the man and woman tried to escape when he left the room, and the woman screamed. Realising that the alarm had been raised, the intruder fled on a bicycle. A neighbour and former FBI agent responded to the noise and pursued the perpetrator, who abandoned the bicycle and knife and escaped on foot through local backyards. The attack was later linked to the Offerman Manning murders by shoe prints and twine used to bind the victims. On December 30th, 44-year-old Robert Offman and 35-year-old Deborah Manning were found shot to death at Offerman's condo. Offerman's bindings were untied, indicating that he had lunged at the attacker. Neighbours had heard gunshots. Paw prints of a large dog were found at the scene, leading to speculation that the killer may have brought one with him. The killer had also broken into the vacant adjoining residence and stolen a bicycle, later found abandoned on a street north of the scene, from a third residence of the complex. On March 13th of 1980, 33-year-old Charlene Smith and 43-year-old Lyman Smith were found murdered in their Ventura home. Charlene had been raped. A log from a wood pile on the side of the house was used to bludgeon the victims to death. Their wrists and ankles had been bound with drapery cord. An unusual Chinese knot, a diamond knot, was used on Charlene's wrist. The same knot was noted in the East Area rapist attacks, at least one confirmed case of which was publicly known. The murderer was therefore briefly given the name the Diamond Knot Killer. On August 19th, 24-year-old Keith Eli Harrington and 27-year-old Patrice Briscoe Harrington were found bludgeoned to death in their home. Patrice Harrington had also been raped. Although there was evidence that the Harringtons' wrists and ankles were bound, no murder weapon or ligatures were found at the scene. The Harringtons had been married for 3 months at the time of their deaths. Patrice was a nurse from Irvine, and Keith was a medical student at UC Irvine. Keith's brother Bruce later spent nearly $2 million supporting California Proposition 69, authorizing DNA connection from all California felons and certain other criminals. On February 6th of 1981, 28-year-old Manuela Whittu was raped and murdered in her Irvine home. Although Whittu's bodies had signs of being tied up before she was bludgeoned, no murder weapon or ligatures were found. Though the victim was married, her husband was away, hospitalized, and she was alone at the time of the attack. Whitten's television was found in the backyard, possibly the killer's attempt to make the crime appear to be a botched robbery. On July 27th, 35-year-old Sherry Domingo and 27-year-old Gregory Sanchez became the original Night Stalker's 10th and 11th murder victims. Both were attacked in Domingo's residence, where Domingo was living temporarily. It was owned by a relative and up for sale. The offender entered the house through a small bathroom window. Sanchez had not been tied up and was shot and wounded in the cheek before he was bludgeoned to death with a garden tool. Some believe that Sanchez may have realised he was dealing with the man responsible for the Offerman Manning murders and tried to tackle the killer rather than being tied up. Again, no neighbours responded to the gunshot. Sanchez's head was covered with clothes pulled from the closet. Domingo was raped and bludgeoned. Bruises on her wrists and ankles indicated that she had been tied, although the restraints were missing. A piece of shipping twine was found near the bed, and fibres from an unknown source were scattered over her body. Authorities believe that the attacker may have worked as a painter or in a similar job at the Cali Real shopping centre. On May 4th of 1986, 18-year-old Janelle Lisa Cruz was found dead after she was raped and bludgeoned in her Irvine home. Her family was on vacation in Mexico at the time of the attack. A pipe wrench reported missing by Cruz's stepfather was thought to be the murder weapon. Initially, investigators in respective jurisdictions did not think that the Southern California murders were connected. A Sacramento detective strongly believed that the East Area rapist was responsible for the Goleta attacks, but the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office attributed them to a local career criminal who was later murdered. Unaware of the Goleta's murders, local police in surrounding jurisdictions followed false leads relating to men who were close to the female victims. One person, later cleared, was charged with 2 of the murders. Many years later, the case was linked almost entirely by DNA testing. On March 18th of 1977, the Sacramento County Sheriff's Police Office received 3 calls from a man claiming to be the East Area rapist. None were recorded. The first 2 calls, received at 4:15 and 4:30 p.m, were identical and ended with the caller laughing and hanging up. The final call came in at 5 p.m, with the caller saying, "I'm the East Side rapist, and I have my next victim already stalked and you guys can't catch me." On December 2nd of 1977, a man claimed to be the rapist called the Sacramento Police Department, saying, "You're never gonna catch me. East Area rapist, you dumb effers. I'm gonna F you again tonight, be careful." The call was recorded and later released. As with the previous call, the next victim was attacked that night. On December 9th of 1977, during Christmas season, a previous victim received a phone call that she attributed to her attacker. The caller said, "Merry Christmas, it's me again." Shortly before 10 p.m. on December 10th of 1977, the Sacramento authorities received two identical calls saying, "I'm going to hit tonight at Watt Avenue." Both were recorded and the caller was identified as the same person who placed the call on December 2nd. Law enforcement patrols were increased that night, and at 2:30 a.m, a masked man eluded officers after being seen bicycling on the Watt Avenue Bridge. When spotted again at 4:30 a.m, he discarded the bike and fled on foot. The bicycle had been stolen. The first known rape victim received a wrong number call asking for Ray on January 2nd of 1978. The call was recorded and police suspected that it may have been the same caller who made a threatening call to her later that evening. The call was also recorded and identified by the victims as the voice of her assailant. The caller said, "Gonna kill you, gonna kill you, gonna kill you. Bitch, 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 effing whore." A man claiming to be the East Area rapist called the contact counselling service and said, "I have a problem. I need help because I don't want to do this anymore." After a short conversation, the caller said, "I believe you are tracing this call," and hung up. In 1982, a previous victim received a call at her place of work, during which the rapist threatened to rape her again. According to Contra Costa County investigator Paul Holes, the rapist must have visited the restaurant and recognised his victim there. In 1991, a previous victim received a phone call from her perpetrator and spoke with him for 1 minute. She could hear a woman and children in the background, leading to speculation that he had a family. On April 6th of 2001, one day after an article in the Sacramento Bee linked the original Night Stalker and the East Area rapist, a victim of the rapist received a call from him. He asked, "Remember when we played?" Before officially connecting the original Night Stalker to the East Area rapist in 2001, some law enforcement officials, particularly that from Sacramento County, sought to link the Goleta cases as well. The links were primarily due to the similarities in MO. One of the already linked original Night Stalker double murders occurred in Ventura, 40 miles south of Goleta, and the remaining murders were committed in Orange County, an additional 90 miles southeast. In 2001, several rapes in Contra Costa County, believed to have been committed by the East Area rapist, were linked by DNA to the Smith, Harrington, Witten and Cruz murders. A decade later, DNA evidence indicated that the Domingo Sanchez murders were also committed by the East Area rapist, also identified as the Golden State Killer. On July 15th of 2016, the FBI released further information relating to the crimes, including new composite sketches and criminal details. A $50,000 reward was also announced. The initiative included a national database to support law enforcement's investigating of the crimes and to handle tips and information. Eventually, through the use of genetic genealogy, investigators identified distant relatives of DeAngelo, including family members directly related to his great-great-great-great-grandfather, dating back to the 1800s. Based on this information, investigators built around 25 different family trees. The tree that eventually linked to DeAngelo also contained approximately 1,000 people. Over the course of a few months, investigators used other clues like age, sex, and place of residence to rule out suspects populating these trees, eliminating suspects one by one until only DeAngelo remained. Identification of DeAngelo began in 2017, when officials, led by Detective Paul Holes and FBI lawyer Steve Kramer, unloaded the killer's DNA profile from the Ventura County rape kit to the personal genomics website GED Match. The website identified 10 to 20 people who had the same great-great-great-grandparents as the Golden State Killer. A team of 5 investigators, working with genealogist Barbara Ray Venter, used the list to construct a large family tree. From this tree, they established 2 suspects. One was ruled out by a relative's DNA test, leaving DeAngelo the main suspect. On April 18th of 2018, a DNA sample was collected from the door handle of DeAngelo's car. Another sample was later collected from a tissue found in DeAngelo's curbside garbage can. Both were matched to samples associated with the Golden State Killer crimes. On the evening of April 24, 2018, Sacramento County Sheriff's deputies arrested DeAngelo in the side yard of his Sacramento home. He was charged with 8 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances. On May 10th, the Santa Barbara County District Attorney Office charged DeAngelo with 4 additional counts of first-degree murder. DeAngelo made a confession of sorts after his arrest that cryptically referred to an inner personality named Jerry, who had forced him to commit the wave of crimes that ended abruptly in 1986. According to the Sacramento County prosecutor Then Ho, DeAngelo said the following to himself while alone in a police interrogation room after his arrest in April of 2018. "I didn't have the strength to push him out. He made me. He went with me. It was like in my head. I mean, he's a part of me. I didn't want to do those things. I pushed Jerry out and had a happy life. I did all those things. I destroyed all their lives. So now I've got to pay the price." Detectives ignored DeAngelo's initial request to speak to an attorney, later citing a legal theory that his potential Miranda violation would be justified, with the understanding that prosecutors could not use the interview against the defendant in court. DeAngelo could not be charged with rapes or burglaries, as the statute of limitations had expired for those offences, but he was charged with 13 counts of murder and 13 counts of kidnapping. DeAngelo was arraigned in Sacramento on August 23rd of 2018. In November of 2018, prosecutors from 6 involved counties collectively estimated that the case could cost taxpayers $20 million and last 10 years. At an April 10, 2019 court proceeding, prosecutors announced that they would seek the death penalty, and the judge ruled that cameras could be allowed inside the courtroom during the trial. On March 4th of 2020, DeAngelo offered a plea of guilty if the death penalty was taken off the table, which was not acceptable at the time. On July 29th, as part of a plea bargain to avoid the death penalty, DeAngelo pled guilty to 13 counts of first-degree murder and under special circumstances, including murder committed during burglaries and rapes, as well as 13 counts of kidnapping. On August 21st of 2020, DeAngelo received multiple consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. In November of 2020, DeAngelo was transferred to the North Kern State Prison. As of February 2021, DeAngelo is incarcerated in protective custody at the California State Prison. This is the story of the Golden State Killer. I am glad that justice was served after 40 years. I hope this brought the victims and their families some closure and allowed them to start healing from this evil man. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, then please leave a thumbs up and leave a comment. If you like what I do here, then please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. Anyway, that is it from me. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.